Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time here, welcome. I'm Loriente, and today I'm going to be sharing with you what I fed my family of 4 for dinner for a week. As a parent myself, I know that dinner time can be a super stressful time for families. It should be a time where everybody comes together and can enjoy a meal and share their day with each other, but for a lot of parents, especially ones with little kids, it can be really hard. Toddlers sometimes are picky, they don't want to eat, there's tantrums, you've got older kids who've got sporting events and practices and here and there and clubs, and so you're kind of torn all over the place in different ways. And so these are just some of my go-to recipes that I like, my husband likes, the kids like, that are pretty quick for me to make, that I end up rotating into our weekly dinners fairly often. They also are meals that make enough for us to have leftovers because I personally do not want to be cooking every night. I love cooking, I love being in the kitchen, but I love experimental cooking. Like, I love trying new recipes or adapting recipes and doing stuff like that. That's really more the cooking that I get to do like on the weekend. Weeknight cooking, not my favorite. Tends to just be like the same, maybe like 20 recipes that we rotate through over and over again. I want those dinners to be quick. I want them to be easy. I want them to be things that last well in the fridge so that we can have them for leftovers, or that carry well to bring to work for leftovers for my husband, things like that. Now, when it comes to my time cooking in the kitchen, during the week, I try not to make more than like 3 meals. And like, if whatever I cook on Monday, we'll have like Monday, Tuesday, and then I'll cook something for Wednesday, Thursday, and then maybe I'll cook something on Friday. I don't cook on Saturday, and I then resume cooking on Sunday, but Sunday is usually a special meal, not something I usually make leftovers of. We're gonna spend a lot of time in this video hanging out in the kitchen, making different meals. I'm gonna try to be as thorough as possible when providing the recipes for these meals. I don't work off of a recipe. These are things that I make pretty often, so maybe the first or second time I made them, I was working off a recipe, and at this point, it's just probably something I could do in my sleep. But again, I'm gonna try to give recipes just in case anything sounds really good to you. You can easily recreate it in your own home or adapt it to be something that you and your family would enjoy. I've probably done enough chatting, so let's start cooking. Starting off with Sunday night's dinner, I decided to make salmon because we went grocery shopping that day and it just sounded good to me. I'm just seasoning my fish here with a little bit of sea salt, black pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, and some ginger because I'm gonna do like an Asian style salmon. And so I have a little bit of a heavy hand with the seasoning, but you do what you need to do for you and your family. Then I cut my fish into pieces and added it to my hot pan that I sprayed with some canola oil. Then I cook the salmon with the skin side down for probably about 6 minutes before I flip it. You want to get like a nice sear on the skin side so that the skin is very easy to peel off. As you can see, I could just kind of do it with a spatula right there. Do not be intimidated by fish with the skin on. If you've never cooked it, it's actually fairly easy to remove. The first time I did it, I was like, what am I doing? But it is super easy. And then once you do it once, you just know what you're doing. So once I flip the salmon, I cook it for like another 2 to 3 minutes. I add my sauce. In that time, I'm using the G. Hughes sugar-free teriyaki sauce. I happen to like this one. It is no sugar. It is low calorie, low carb, or whatever. If that's important to you, I just happen to like the taste of it. So I'm adding that and spooning it on there and just letting it get all in. And then I just kind of gauge the salmon's doneness by looking at it because you want the sides to be like that light pink color. And then I just remove it from the hot pan. For sides, I kept it super simple using the Tattoo Chef frozen stir-fry cauliflower rice. I just added some canola oil to a hot pan. I used the same pan and that I cooked the salmon with so that I had fewer things to clean at the end of the evening. Highly recommend. Highly recommend. And then you just add your frozen stir-fry mix to the pan and basically let it, cook down the way you do with frozen vegetables. I've made like an Asian stir-fry cauliflower rice before. Actually, I did it in a video. I'll link it up top for you if you want to see that recipe. It's easy. It's just a lot of chopping up front. So this just makes things super simple. I like to add egg to ours to add some protein. I just scramble it up and cook it in there and then mix everything together. This is great because my kids don't really love eggs, but it's a great way for me to sneak protein into their plate because they love like rice and cauliflower rice. Like Ariella especially will eat 2 whole bowls of this, and they didn't eat a ton of the salmon, as I knew they wouldn't. So this is a way for me to get the protein in them without them knowing. So Monday night's dinner, I actually started on Sunday. This is a great make ahead dinner and then pull out when you need it, and it is my lasagna roll-ups. And you want to start off by cutting up about half of a small white onion, and then you are going to spray a hot pan, add your chopped garlic. I use the pre-chopped garlic in the jar, makes my life easy. This is about 2 tablespoons. And then I add my onions and cook until translucent. Then I add my protein. You can use any kind of ground protein. You can use ground beef, ground turkey, ground chicken. I'm using chicken. Normally I use turkey for this recipe. And then I add in some spinach. Again, this is a way for me to sneak veggies into my kids' plates. It is delicious. And we all know that spinach is good for you. Once your protein is cooked through and your spinach is wilted, you just want to put that in a bowl, set it to the side to cool. I cleaned the same pan, added my water, and brought it to a boil for my lasagna noodles. The name of the game is have as few dishes as possible at the end of the evening. I try to use this one pan for absolutely everything, and truly it works for everything. Just cook up my lasagna noodles, and then I add my sauce to my glass baking dish. Pull out a lasagna noodle. I line that noodle with some fat-free ricotta cheese. You could use regular ricotta. I just use fat-free just because, we try. And then I add my protein and my spinach mixture, and then I just roll everything up and place it in my glass baking dish. Once your dish is filled with all your rolls, you're just going to top it with some sauce, and then you're either ready to bake or you're going to pop it in your fridge and pull it out when you're ready, which is what I did. I pulled it out the next day, added my mozzarella then, and then threw it in the oven at 350 for 35 minutes. Now, I left mine out for a few hours before I baked it to get it to room temp, so I didn't put a cold lasagna in the oven. If you're putting it in cold, you might want to add a couple of minutes or bump up the temperature in the oven. Sitting down and having dinner with the kids is actually kind of newer to us. We used to do it and then we stopped because we were getting so overstimulated sitting down with the kids when they were frustrated and when they didn't want to eat, and it just was such a battle that we couldn't even enjoy our food. So we ended up eating dinner really late, but recently it hasn't been working for us health-wise, and so now we're back to eating earlier with the kids. Mike's not always around. Sometimes he's working, so on those nights we try to FaceTime him at dinner time. Next recipe is perfect for busy on-the-go parents that don't have a lot of time to make dinner, or people that don't really enjoy cooking. Super simple. You're just going to add 2 to 3 chicken breasts to a crock pot. In my case, I use chicken tenders because that's what I had on hand, and a packet of taco seasoning. Then you're going to add salsa. I use mild just because I'm feeding this to my kids, but you do you. I had 2 open jars, but basically you want to add about 24 ounces of jarred salsa to your crock pot chicken. I also added 1 small can of Rotel because I was trying to get it out of my pantry, but that's optional. You don't need it. I added 2 cans of canned corn and then 2 cans of black beans. I drained both before I added them to the mix, and then I just mix everything up. I'm going to give it a little bit of a season with some adobo because, spice is life. And then I'm going to add my lid on and set my crock pot on high for like 4.5 hours, but I checked it at 4 hours and it was done. So I didn't actually even let it complete the last 30 minutes. After the 4 hours, I pulled the chicken out of the mix and then I set it aside on a cutting board. I let it cool for just like a second or two, and then I got in there with some forks and started shredding it up. I know people do this with a hand mixer and they say it's really easy, but I don't know. Cleaning the hand mixer parts and taking that all out seems more complicated to me than just using forks that are very easily accessible. So that's what I did. Once you shredded up all your chicken, you're just going to add that back into your crock pot along with everything else, and we're going to move on to the step that makes it creamy. I like to use fat-free plain Greek yogurt. I probably use about 1/2 cup. I'm going to add more in a second, you'll see, but that's my starter. There's a color that I look for the mixture to be, and that's how I know when I'm done, but I say start off with a 1/2 cup and see how you feel about it. If it's creamy enough, if it's not, add a little bit more. And then I added probably in total 1 cup of this fat-free shredded cheddar cheese. Use, again, whatever cheese you have on hand, whatever shredded cheese that you like. and just mix it until everything's melted together and mixed together nicely. In the background of all of this, I was making brown rice. So do that, make your rice while your crock pot's going or whatever, so it's all ready to serve at the same time. And then I just top my rice with my creamy Mexican chili, and I've got a delicious dinner. Now, once this is plated, you can top it with a dollop of sour cream, some cilantro, a little guacamole, a little bit more cheese maybe. The possibilities are endless. We just kind of ate it plain, but you know, it's good a million different ways really. This is also a recipe that makes a ton, so it's perfect to have leftovers. We can have this for another night for dinner and probably like a lunch or two. And also it freezes very well. Just throw it in a Tupperware, throw it in a plastic Ziploc bag and freeze it and pull it out a week or two later when you're ready to have it again. Wednesday night was a no-cook night, so I just heated up these freezer meatballs that Josiah likes. I like to keep these on hand for quick lunches or dinners. Sometimes I have a better chance of getting him to eat these than I actually do real meatballs. So I just heat them in the microwave, put them over some pasta we already had in the fridge and some sauce I had left over, and then I had the leftover lasagna rolls. And this was just a quick, easy dinner. I also sent Mike to work with lasagna rolls because he wasn't home this night for dinner. Thursday night's dinner is a pork loin with a soy sauce and orange marmalade, sauce over top, and then I'm serving it with a side of mashed potatoes, which happens to be a family favorite. My kids love mashed potatoes. They house them every time I make them. So even though I hate the painstaking process of peeling all of the potatoes, I love that my kids will actually eat this dinner and they will ask for more. That is the most important thing when serving toddlers that just like don't want to eat. I think I peeled and cut up 10 potatoes total, but that's because some of them were on the smaller side and kind of 2 of those small potatoes equate to like 1 good sized one. If I had all large ones, I probably would have just done 5, and that would have been enough for our family of 4 to have them for like dinner 2 nights. But do whatever it is that you need to do. I just like to dice them up into like quarters, and then I throw them in a pot of water. I bring it to a boil and I just let them cook until I stab them with a fork and they're nice and tender, and that's when you know they're ready to mash. But in the meantime, while that's cooking, I'm going to season up my pork loin. I did sea salt, black pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, and then ginger again, which is very similar to what we did with the salmon. But again, this is kind of like an Asian inspired sauce, so that's why I added in the ginger. I think the rule of thumb for cooking pork loin is 20 minutes for every pound. Mine was a little over a pound, so I think I did 35 minutes total at 350 in the oven. While that was baking, I just did my sauce. I would say the perfect ratio for this is 2 to 1. So 2 being the jelly or the marmalade, 1 being the soy sauce, so it's not too salty. I actually did 1 to 1 to start, and then I realized that it was too salty, so I went back and added more of my sugar-free orange marmalade. This sauce is really, really good, super simple to make, 2 ingredients, and then you just kind of put it on. So at the 30-minute mark, I added this to the pork loin, and then I shut off the oven and just let it finish cooking that way. Now, this is where the measurements are going to fly off the handle a little bit, because I don't think I've ever made mashed potatoes the same way twice. I'm going to start off with probably about a cup of unsweetened almond milk. Use whatever milk you have, and then probably about 3 tablespoons of butter, and then a quarter of a cup plain fat-free Greek yogurt. You could use sour cream too, whatever you have on hand. And then I use my electric mixer to mix it all together. And then based on the consistency, sometimes I add a little more milk, sometimes I add a little bit more of my thicker component, which would be my Greek yogurt. And then I season. Salt, pepper, garlic salt, and a little onion powder. And we add a little bit of cheese because everything is made better by cheese. So I probably add, I don't know, a half a cup. I don't add a ton of cheese. And then I just mix in my shredded cheddar till it's all melty in the mashed potatoes. I did this like one time and Mike really loved it. And then I wasn't doing it every time after that, but my kids actually really like it this way. So I just keep making it this way. And then I just did an easy microwave veggie to round things off. So those are all the dinners. I fed my family of 4 for a week. I was actually short today in this video. I was gonna cook something on Friday night. I was gonna cook this, it's like a spicy, like creamy garlic, like shrimp dish that you serve over like ramen noodles. And I love it. I'm addicted to making that. I make it probably like once a week at this point. The plan was to serve the kids like leftovers or something and then make that for Mike and I after they went to bed and have like a later dinner for just the 2 of us, make it a little special. But I ended up not feeling very well and I felt like I was coming down with something. I had a sore throat. It ended up turning into a whole cold that turned into tonsillitis that I battled for over a week. So needless to say, I did not feel like cooking that Friday night. So we ended up all just eating like a hodgepodge of leftovers. Like whatever was left over, I don't think any of us had the same meal. We all kind of picked different things that were left over in the fridge, which was great because it was a nice fridge cleanup. That's what we ended up doing Friday night, and then we ordered takeout on Saturday like normal. I hope you guys were able to draw some inspiration from this video. If you liked this video and you want to let me know that you liked it so that I know to make more of them, you can just leave this video a thumbs up. You can leave me any questions or comments down below. If you're subscribed, thanks for being here. If not, and you enjoyed what you saw here today, I would love it if you would subscribe and join the family. Just hit that little button. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.